you for joining us on this ceasefire moment. Today we're calling for a ceasefire in the Firearm Frenzy debate. Let's get educated before we continue on with our opinions and what we think about firearms. Once you've educated yourself, please feel free to re-engage in the Firearm Frenzy. Let's start off here on Time's website, where they looked at 41 years of mass shootings in the US and they put it all in one chart. As we went down through the chart, we noticed that 2017 was a big year, mainly because of the Las Vegas shootings. So we figured that we would take 2017 as our base year because most data is in and official for that year. We can see that there were several shootings that year, with the one big one in Las Vegas. We're looking at the CDC.gov numbers, at the National Vital Statistic Reports. It was published in June of 2019, and this is the deaths, the final data for 2017. We're on page 43. Here we have intentional self-harm or suicide, and that was 47,000. And the firearm is 23,000. We're coming down here to the assault section. There were 19,000 deaths by assault. 14,000 of those were by firearm. This is a layout by race. Firearm related suicide, the highest number are for whites, and it's the white males. And the lowest number is the non-Hispanic American Indian Alaska Natives. Coming down here to the assault and homicide firearms, we can see that the highest number of homicides is committed against black, 9,000, and that 8,000 of those are homicides by firearm. And the lowest number on this one is the same. It's the American Indian and Alaska Natives. A fascinating number that I saw was the breakdown here of drug-induced deaths, alcohol-induced deaths, and injury by firearms. 73,000 drug-induced deaths, 35,000 alcohol-induced deaths, and 39,000 firearm-induced deaths. We're moving down to page 46. On page 46, it's again by race, but this time it's looking at 100,000 people. What is the rate per 100,000 people? This kind of tries to scale it down a little bit to be more comprehensible. If we come down here and we're looking at the intentional self-harm, out of 100,000 people, 7.3 people die in 2017. If we look at the assault category, 4.5 people died by homicide using the discharge of a firearm. 4.5 out of 100,000 people. When we look over here, this number here is a pretty high number. Is the non-Hispanic blacks. Now we're going to take a look at table 6 of the FBI's crime in 2017. We're going to look at the race. These are the victims, and these are the offenders. So for a white victim, it's typically a white offender. For a black or African American, it's typically a black or African American male. For males, it's typically a black or a white, because that's pretty close, male. And for Hispanics and Latinos, it looks like it's typically white males, and it looks like they're usually Hispanic Latino. we didn't look at that up here because it's normally this is a non-Hispanic. So typically it's white on white, black on black, and Hispanic on Hispanic. And let's take a look at females. It's typically the white, and it's a male. So the only place it kind of differs is for males, it could be white or black, and it's usually another male. But for females, it's usually a white male. Again, moving on down through the document, we're going to go to page 51. It kind of gives a summary. If we look here, here's your firearms, and you can see that 39,000 people died from firearm-related injuries or assault. 486 were unintentional, 23,000 were suicides, 14,000 were homicides, 338 was undetermined, and 553 were legal intervention in war. What's fascinating about this is if you just go up just a little bit up to here, you'll see that 38,000 people died from motor vehicle related accidents. 6,400 people who were pedestrians were killed by a motor vehicle. Bicyclists, 679. Here's a very fascinating one. Let's just move up a little further and look at poisoning. 75,000 people died from poisoning in 2017. 64,000 of those were unintentional. 64,000 unintentional poisonings. It seems like that should be something that would be very easily remedied. And the other one we can look at here are falls. 36,000 people fell unintentionally and died. So again, 39,000 died from firearm, 37,000 died from falls, 38,000 died in motor vehicle accidents, 75,000 died in poisoning. Now we're going to switch over and take a look at the FBI database, the expanded homicide data by weapon. These are murders by weapon in 2017. So the total number of victims of murder in 2017 was 15,000 people. The total firearm was 10,000. And when you look at this is the handguns. 7,000 handguns related murders. 7,000. Rifles, 403. Shotguns, 264. Other types that are not stated, 3,200. This one here is crazy. If you look at this number here, rifles and shotguns, and then you look at the number by knives and cutting, if you look at this hands, fists, and feet, 692 murders were committed by those, and we only have 667 committed by rifles and shotguns together. So what we can see here is that handguns and whatever this would be are the two types of firearms that are used in murders the most in 2017. If you scroll down through the types or the circumstances, you'd come down here and see that the most are in this category, other types of felony. And then when you come down, you'll see usually it's in regard to an argument. Other arguments. And then this other not specified. Now we're going to come over here to this database, and this is a criminal attorney in Cincinnati who did a study. on all of this. All the links will be listed below. And this was a nice way to lay this out. So he looked at the gun friendliness score, which means if you have a 1, you have very strict rules and are not really friendly to having guns in your state. And if you are a 5, you're very friendly to having guns in your state. When we look down through this, those listed in this column, you would expect to all be very low because they have very strict gun laws. We can see that Maryland has popped up here. And again, this is a rate per 100,000 people. So in Maryland, for this particular year, there were 7 people out of 100,000 killed by firearms in Maryland that is not very friendly to firearms. On the other side of this scale is you have these. These are the most friendly to firearms. They have a lot less laws, and what you would expect is to see a bunch of them up here in this section. And we do see where Missouri and Mississippi are up here. This is showing is for this particular year in Mississippi, 10 out of 100,000 people were killed by firearms in a state that's very open and friendly to firearms, with many of them don't have very strict gun laws. But I want you to notice this. Here's New Hampshire, Vermont, Idaho, and Maine. They had less than 2 people out of 100,000 killed by firearms. That's 4 states down here. The only one that was lower than them on this not friendly to firearms state was Hawaii. California, New Jersey, and New York all had a higher rate per 100,000 people killed by firearm. Then you have your states right here that are kind of medium, and you can see where they all fall. These ones are the highest. Again, 11 out of 100,000 people. And these are the lowest. This would be 1 out of 100,000 people. This concludes this episode of this ceasefire moment. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you learned something.